My mother said, "Your sister is coming with her 2 kids to live with us, so you need to leave. I am Iris, 27 years old, and a graphic designer who had been living with my mother since losing my apartment. The building was sold unexpectedly, forcing me back to my childhood home. I paid rent, bought groceries, and helped with bills while saving for a new place. Things seemed okay until last night, when Mum dropped a bombshell over dinner. Your sister is coming with her 2 kids to live with us, so you need to leave, you parasite." I replied, "You are joking, right?" My mum laughed and said, "No, I am serious. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe to join me on this journey of standing up for yourself when family tries to walk all over you." Growing up, I always felt like I was living in my sister Alison's shadow. Our mother Sandra always seemed to have a special place in her heart for her firstborn. It was subtle at first: extra dessert for Alison, more praise for her mediocre report cards, while my straight A's were expected new clothes for her while I got hand-me-downs. As we grew older, the favoritism became more apparent. My father Thomas was my rock. He saw what was happening and tried his best to balance the scales. He would take me out for ice cream after my mother cancelled our shopping trip to attend one of Alison's many drama club performances. He taught me to fish, something Alison had no interest in giving us special time together. When I got my first photography award in high school, he framed it and hung it prominently in his office, even though my mother suggested it would look better in my bedroom out of sight. When Dad died from a heart attack 2 years ago, I lost more than my father. I lost my advocate, my support system, the one person who seemed to see me for who I truly was. The funeral was difficult, with Mum leaning heavily on Alison, while I stood off to the side, handling arrangements and paperwork, because I was always so good with details. After Dad died, our family dynamic shifted even further. Without him there to temper her favoritism, my mother became even more blatant in her preference for Alison. Christmas gifts showed the disparity, with Alison receiving expensive jewelry while I got a generic sweater. Birthday celebrations for Alison were elaborate affairs, while mine warranted just a card and obligatory phone call. I had built a good life for myself despite all this. After college, I secured a position at a prestigious design firm in the city. My work was well received and I was on track for a promotion. I had my own apartment, a small but stylish 1-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. I had friends, a social life, and was even saving for a down payment on my own place someday. Then came the notice that my building had been sold to developers who planned to convert it to luxury condominiums. All tenants had 60 days to vacate. The timing could not have been worse. The rental market was at an all-time high, and finding a new place in my price range seemed impossible. After weeks of unsuccessful apartment hunting and facing homelessness, I swallowed my pride and called my mother. To my surprise, she readily agreed to let me move back home temporarily while I sorted things out. We established ground rules from the start. I would pay $500 monthly for rent cover, half the utilities, and help with household chores. It seemed fair, and initially things went smoothly. We fell into a routine of shared meals and quiet evenings watching TV. We even started a tradition of Sunday brunches, where I would try out new recipes I found online. For a while, I thought perhaps we could repair our relationship without my father as intermediary. The first hint that trouble was brewing came about 3 months into our arrangement. Mum mentioned casually over dinner that she had spoken to Alison earlier that day. "Your sister is having some problems with James," she said, referring to Alison's husband of 10 years. "He is being controlling about money again." This wasn't surprising news. Alison had married James right after high school. He came from money and had always been the jealous type, monitoring Alison's spending and friendships. They had 2 children, Emma, who was 8, and Lucas, who was 6. From the outside, they had the perfect life, a large house in the suburbs, luxury cars, private schools for the kids. But there had always been whispers about James's controlling nature. "Is she okay?" I asked, genuinely concerned, despite our complicated relationship. "She will be fine," Mum said dismissively. "She always lands on her feet, that girl." That was certainly true. Throughout our lives, Alison had mastered the art of using family as a safety net. When she dropped out of community college, she lived at home for a year, finding herself, without contributing a dime. When she had a fight with James before they were married, she came home for 3 weeks, commandeering my room while I slept on the couch. Once things improved, she would disappear back into her life without so much as a thank you. Despite knowing this history, I had no idea that my mother's casual mention of Alison's marital problems was the prelude to my own impending crisis. Had I known what was coming, perhaps I could have prepared better. Instead, I continued paying rent, contributing to the household, and believing that our arrangement, while not ideal, was at least stable. Little did I know, my mother had very different plans. Plans that did not include me. Plans that would force me to confront years of being treated as less than of being the responsible one, who was expected to sacrifice without complaint. Plans that would ultimately change our family dynamic forever. The evening started like any other Thursday. I had worked late finishing a project for a demanding client and stopped at the grocery store on my way home to pick up ingredients for dinner. Mum had texted earlier saying she was craving pasta, so I gathered supplies for my signature garlic parmesan linguine, a recipe Dad had taught me years ago. When I arrived home, I noticed my mother seemed distracted, checking her phone frequently and smiling at messages. I assumed it was one of her book club friends sharing gossip and thought nothing of it as I began preparing our meal. "Something smells good," Mum said, finally putting down her phone as I set the table. "Dad's linguine recipe," I replied, placing a steaming bowl in the center of the table alongside a simple salad. "I added extra garlic just how you like it." We sat down and began eating, making small talk about our days. Mum mentioned a sale at her favorite department store, while I shared an anecdote about my co-worker's disastrous attempt at making coffee in our new fancy machine. The conversation lulled for a moment, and then my mother cleared her throat in that way she always did, before saying something she knew would be difficult. "Iris, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, setting down her fork. "Is everything okay?" I asked, immediately concerned. "Are you feeling all right?" "I am fine," she waved dismissively. "It is about Allison." Of course it was. I braced myself for another request to send money or help with some crisis from afar. What came next, however, was far worse than I could have imagined. "Your sister is leaving James," Mum stated flatly. "She and the kids need a place to stay while she figures things out." "Oh," I said, genuinely surprised but not yet alarmed. "When is this happening? Should we set up the guest room for them?" Mum took a sip of her water and avoided my eyes. "They are coming tomorrow, and that is what I needed to discuss with you. They will need your room." I frowned, confused. "My room? But where would I sleep? The couch is way too small for more than a night or two." "Well," she said finally, looking at me with an expression that sent a chill down my spine. "I think it is time you found your own place again. Do not you? You have been here for months now." The pasta turned to cement in my stomach as I processed her words. "Mum, we agreed I would stay until I saved enough for a deposit on a new apartment. The rental market is insane right now. You know that." "Plans change," she replied coldly. "Allison needs us. She has the children to think about." "I need you too," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "I have nowhere to go. I have been paying rent. We had an agreement." "An agreement," she scoffed. "You should be grateful I let you stay this long. 27 years old and still living with your mother. Allison was married with a child by your age. And now she is leaving her husband and coming back home." I pointed out, immediately regretting my sharp tone. My mother's face hardened. "Do not you dare judge your sister. She is going through a terrible time." "I am not judging her," I protested. "But you cannot just kick me out with no notice. I have rights as a tenant." She laughed, a cold sound that bore no resemblance to genuine amusement. "Tenant, this is my house, Iris. And right now, Allison and those children need it more than you do." "I need time to find somewhere else to live," I insisted, panic rising in my chest. "The housing market is terrible. You cannot expect me to just disappear overnight." "You have until tomorrow evening," she said firmly. "Your sister's flight lands at 4 p.m. "Tomorrow," I gasped. "That is impossible. No one can find housing in less than 24 hours. "Perhaps you should have been looking already, instead of getting comfortable here," she replied. "I mentioned Allison might be coming weeks ago." That was a lie. She had mentioned Allison was having problems, nothing about her potentially moving back home. I felt like I was drowning, unable to process the complete unfairness of the situation. "This is not right," I said, pushing away from the table. "You cannot do this to me." "I most certainly can," she snapped. "This is my house, my rules. I need that room for Allison and the kids. You will just have to figure something out. You always do." "What about the rent I have been paying, the groceries I have bought? The repairs I paid for when the washing machine broke?" My voice was rising now, anger beginning to overtake shock. "Consider it your contribution to family. God knows you have taken enough from us over the years." "Taken?" I was nearly shouting now. "What exactly have I taken?" "Food, shelter, support," she listed off dismissively. Always the needy one, always requiring attention and validation. I could not believe what I was hearing. Throughout my life, I had been the self-sufficient one, the one who worked hard and asked for little. That is not fair, and you know it. I said, my hands shaking. I have always been independent. I only came back because I had no other option, and I have contributed fairly. Well, now your sister needs help, and it is time for you to go, she said with finality. Stop being selfish. Alison has children to think about. And where am I supposed to go? I demanded. She shrugged. That is not my problem. Figure it out. You are being a parasite at this point. The word landed like a physical blow. Parasite. Is that how she saw me, after everything I had done, everything I had been through? You are joking, right? I asked desperately, hoping this was some cruel test. She laughed again, that same cold sound. No, Iris, I am serious. I need you out by tomorrow afternoon. I stood up, my dinner forgotten. This is unbelievable. Dad would never have allowed this. Her expression darkened. Well, your father is not here, is he? And the reality is, Alison needs this space more than you do right now. I left the table without another word, retreating to my room, the room I was apparently expected to vacate by tomorrow. I closed the door and sank to the floor, my back against the wall, as hot tears spilled down my face. Through the door, I could hear my mother clearing the table as if nothing extraordinary had happened, as if she had not just shattered my world and told me I meant nothing. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Alison. Thanks for understanding about the room situation. The kids are so excited to stay in their auntie's room. See you tomorrow. XOXO. She knew. She had known all along that Mum was going to kick me out, and she had not even had the decency to call me herself. I turned off my phone and curled up on my bed, crying until exhaustion finally pulled me into a restless sleep. I woke up early the next morning, my eyes swollen from crying and my head pounding. For a brief, blissful moment, I thought perhaps the previous evening had been a terrible dream. Then I heard my mother humming cheerfully in the kitchen, and the harsh reality came rushing back. I was being evicted from my childhood home to make room for my sister and her children. I had less than 12 hours to figure out where I would go. Rather than facing my mother immediately, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, contemplating how I had ended up in this situation. Throughout my life, I had always been the responsible one, the one who did what was expected without complaint. I worked hard in school, secured a good job, lived within my means. When crisis struck in the form of losing my apartment, I had swallowed my pride and come home only to be discarded the moment my sister needed something. This pattern had defined our family dynamic for as long as I could remember. Alison needed, I accommodated. Alison wanted, I stepped aside. Alison failed. I succeeded quietly in the background while attention remained fixed on her struggles and triumphs. Even now, with both of us well into adulthood, nothing had changed. I was still expected to be the one who figured things out, who made sacrifices, who disappeared when convenient. As I lay there, something shifted inside me. A lifetime of quiet acceptance gave way to a simmering anger that had been building for years. I was tired of being the family doormat, tired of having my needs dismissed as unimportant, tired of being the good daughter who got nothing in return for her loyalty and sacrifice. I reached for my phone and called Taylor, my best friend since college, and the one person who truly understood my complicated family situation. "Hey, what is up?" Taylor answered cheerfully. "You never call this early. Everything okay?" "No," I admitted, my voice cracking. "Everything is definitely not okay." I poured out the entire story from the dinner conversation to being called a parasite to the text from Alison. Taylor listened without interrupting, a skill that made her an excellent friend and a successful therapist. "That is messed up on so many levels," she said when I finished. "She cannot just throw you out with no notice. That is not how tenancy works, even with family." "Apparently she can," I said bitterly. "She made it very clear that it is her house, her rules." "So what are you going to do?" Taylor asked. "I do not know," I admitted. "I have some savings, but not enough for first and last month's rent plus security deposit, especially not on such short notice. And finding an apartment in this market is impossible without weeks of searching." "You can stay with me," Taylor offered immediately. "My place is tiny, but the couch pulls out. It will not be comfortable, but it will give you somewhere to go while you figure things out." I felt a rush of gratitude for her friendship. "Are you sure I do not know how long it would be?" "Absolutely," she said without hesitation. "That is what friends are for." With that immediate crisis addressed, I felt some of the panic subside. I still had no idea what I would do with my furniture and larger belongings, but at least I would not be homeless. I should call work, I realized. I need to take today off to figure this out. Definitely, Taylor agreed. This qualifies as a family emergency if anything does. After ending the call with Taylor, I phoned my boss, Amanda. I had been with the design firm for 5 years and had built a reputation for reliability and quality work. I had rarely taken time off even when sick. Iris, Amanda answered. Everything okay? You are usually logged in by now. Actually, no, I admitted. I am having a family emergency and need to take today off. I promise I will have the Bradshaw presentation ready for Monday. Do not worry about work right now, Amanda said kindly. Take care of yourself and your family. We will manage here. With work notified and a temporary place to stay secured, I opened my laptop and began researching tenant rights in our state. What I discovered was illuminating. Even without a formal lease, my months of paying rent had established me as a tenant. My mother could not legally evict me without proper notice, which in our state was 30 days. As I dug deeper, another important piece of information emerged. After my father died, I had been so overwhelmed with grief and handling funeral arrangements that I had paid little attention to the details of his will. I knew he had left the house to my mother, or so I thought. Now, searching through my email for the documents the lawyer had sent, I discovered something shocking. My father had not left the house solely to my mother. He had left it jointly to my mother and his daughters, with the stipulation that all three would have equal ownership. In other words, I was not just a tenant in this house. I was an owner. This revelation changed everything. The house was 1/3 mine. Legally, my mother could not evict me from property I partially owned. And if she was so determined to give my sister priority, then perhaps it was time to exercise my rights as a co-owner. I sat at my desk, mind racing. I could confront my mother with this information, demand she honor my right to stay. But years of experience told me that would only lead to more emotional manipulation and guilt. No, if I was going to break this cycle, I needed a more definitive approach. I heard my mother moving around in the kitchen making breakfast as if today was just any ordinary day and not the day she planned to throw her daughter out into the street. I listened as she made a phone call. Yes, their flight lands at 4, she was saying presumably to a friend. I will pick them up at the airport. Iris should be gone by then, I told her yesterday. She paused, listening. Oh, she will figure something out. She always does. Allison and the kids are the priority right now. Another pause. I know, but that room is much bigger than the guest room. The kids need the space. And honestly, it is past time Iris moved out anyway. 27 and still living at home. It is not healthy. I had heard enough. The callousness with which she dismissed my situation cemented my decision. I would not beg for space in a home that was partly mine. I would not compete with my sister for my mother's consideration. I would take control of this situation on my terms. I began making calls. First to a storage facility where I reserved a small unit for my furniture and belongings. Next to a moving company that offered same-day service for an extra fee. Then to my bank where I arranged to withdraw enough cash to cover the movers and first month's storage. As I made these arrangements, I noticed my mother had left the house, probably to run errands before picking up Allison. This gave me the perfect opportunity to execute the most critical part of my plan. I called a locksmith. I need to change the locks on my house today, I explained when they answered. How soon can you come? We could have someone there within 2 hours, the dispatcher said. Is this an emergency situation? Not an emergency, I replied. Just need it done today. We will need proof of ownership, the dispatcher explained. I have the deed with my name on it. I assured them, already pulling up the electronic copy from my email. With the locksmith scheduled, I began packing my belongings, starting with the most important things: photos, keepsakes, important documents. As I sorted through my possessions, I discovered a box at the back of my closet I had forgotten about. It contained items my father had saved for me over the years. Report cards, art projects, the program from my first photography exhibition. At the bottom was an envelope with my name written in his familiar handwriting. With trembling hands, I opened it to find a letter. My dearest Iris, it began. If you are reading this, I am no longer with you. I want you to know how incredibly proud I am of the woman you have become. Your strength, intelligence, and kindness have always amazed me. I know that your path has not always been easy, particularly within our family. I wish I could have done more to change the dynamics that sometimes left you feeling less valued than you are. Please know that you have always been my greatest joy, and I have every confidence that you will create a beautiful life on your own terms. The world needs more people like you. All my love, Dad." Tears streamed down my face as I read his words. Even from beyond the grave, my father was still my greatest supporter. His letter felt like permission to do what I was about to do, to stand up for myself and demand the respect I deserved. The doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of the locksmith. With renewed determination, I wiped my tears and went to let them in. While the locksmith worked on changing the locks, the moving company arrived. I directed them efficiently, pointing out the furniture and boxes that needed to go into storage. I had decided to take only what was unquestionably mine, leaving behind anything that could be considered family property. The movers worked quickly, carrying out my bed, desk, bookshelf, and personal items. As they loaded the truck, I continued packing the smaller things that mattered most to me. Photo albums, the special mug Dad had given me for my 16th birthday, the quilt my grandmother had made before she passed. In my dresser drawer, I found more treasures my father had secretly preserved for me: a corsage from my prom, pressed between wax paper, my first business card. When I started at the design firm, a small watercolor I had painted in high school that won a regional competition. Each item was carefully labeled in his handwriting with the date and occasion. I had no idea he had kept these things, these tangible proofs that someone had been paying attention to my achievements all along. The locksmith finished his work and handed me 3 new keys. "All done," he said. "All exterior doors have been rekeyed to match. Do you need extra copies?" "Just these 3 are fine," I replied, paying him and adding a generous tip. As the movers carried out the last of my possessions, I walked through the house one final time. This had been my childhood home, the scene of both happy memories and painful slights. The kitchen where Dad taught me to make his special Sunday pancakes. The living room where I sat unnoticed while family attention focused on Allison's latest drama. The backyard where I practiced photography for hours, teaching myself angles and lighting. In my now empty bedroom, I placed a note on the bare mattress. It read, "Mum and Allison, by now you have discovered that the locks have been changed. Before you call the police, you should know that legally I had every right to do this. After reviewing Dad's will, I discovered that he left this house equally to all 3 of us, you, me, and Allison. As a co-owner, I have as much right to decide who lives here as you do. I have moved my belongings out as you requested, but the house remains partly mine. If you wish to continue living here, we need to have a formal discussion about ownership and arrangements. My lawyer will be contacting you to set up a meeting. The key enclosed is for the new locks. I have the other 2 copies. Do not attempt to change the locks again without my consent. Iris." I placed one of the new keys on top of the note, took a deep breath, and walked out. As I locked the front door behind me, I felt a strange mixture of emotions: sadness at the broken relationship with my mother, anger at years of unfair treatment, but most prominently, a powerful sense of taking control of my own life. The moving truck followed me to the storage facility where we unloaded everything except a suitcase of clothes and my work equipment. From there, I drove to Taylor's apartment where she was waiting with open arms and a glass of wine. "You did it," she said admiringly as I collapsed onto her couch. "I cannot believe you actually changed the locks." "I cannot quite believe it either," I admitted. But it felt right. For the first time in my life, I put myself first. "What happens now?" Taylor asked. "I turn off my phone and enjoy a peaceful evening with my best friend," I replied. "Tomorrow is soon enough to deal with the fallout." And that is exactly what we did. We ordered takeout, watched bad reality TV, and deliberately avoided all discussion of my family situation. For a few precious hours, I allowed myself to simply exist without the weight of family expectations pressing down on me. The next morning, I reluctantly turned my phone back on, bracing myself for the deluge I knew would be waiting. The notifications began immediately: 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from Allison, and dozens of text messages. I scrolled through them, watching the progression of emotions. From my mother: "Iris, where are you? We need to talk." "Why are your things gone? Call me immediately." "What is this note?" "This is ridiculous. You have no right to change the locks. I am calling a lawyer. This is childish and selfish behavior. The children are upset. Is that what you wanted? Please call me. I do not know what to do. We are staying at a hotel. Are you happy now?" From Allison: "Mum is freaking out. What did you do?" "This is so typical of you, making everything about yourself. We have nowhere to go because of your stunt. The kids are crying. They do not understand why we cannot stay at Grandma's. I left James." I have nowhere else to go. Please, Iris, can we talk about this? I need help. I am sorry if this caught you by surprise. I should have called you myself instead of letting Mom handle it. Please call me back. I set the phone down, taking deep breaths to calm my racing heart. Part of me felt guilty for disrupting everyone's plans, especially knowing the children were caught in the middle. But another part, the part that had been silenced and overlooked for decades, felt vindicated. For once, I had not simply rolled over and accepted unfair treatment. I had stood up for myself. Taylor came into the living room, still in her pajamas, holding 2 cups of coffee. From the look on your face, I am guessing World War III has officially begun, she said, handing me one of the mugs. Pretty much, I sighed. Mom is furious. Allison is playing both the victim card and the think of the children card, and they spent the night in a hotel. Good, Taylor said firmly. Let them see how it feels to be suddenly without a home. I sipped my coffee, considering my next move. I should probably talk to a lawyer today, make sure I understand exactly what my rights are. My cousin Marisa is a real estate attorney, Taylor offered. Want me to see if she can fit you in today? That would be amazing, I nodded gratefully. While Taylor called her cousin, my phone rang again. My mother. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Iris, finally, she exclaimed. What were you thinking? We were stranded. Hello to you too, Mum, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I was thinking that I am a partial owner of that house, and you had no right to evict me. This is about your father's will. Iris, he only put your name on there as a formality. He never intended for you to actually claim ownership. That is not what the legal document says, I countered. And it is certainly not what Dad's letter to me suggested. What letter? She demanded. A letter he left me explaining how proud he was of me and encouraging me to stand up for myself, I explained. I found it yesterday while packing. There was a moment of silence before she switched tactics. The children slept poorly in that hotel. Emma was crying for hours. Is that what you wanted? Of course not, I said. I never wanted anyone to suffer, especially not the kids. But you gave me no choice. You called me a parasite, Mom. You were going to throw me out with less than 24 hours' notice from a house I legally own part of. I was upset, she backpedaled. I did not mean parasite literally. It does not matter now, I said firmly. We need to have a real conversation about the house and our arrangements going forward. I am meeting with a lawyer today to understand our options. A lawyer? She sounded alarmed. Iris, we do not need to get lawyers involved in a family matter. We do when family treats me the way you did, I replied. I will have my lawyer contact you to arrange a meeting. Until then, you and Allison can stay in the house. I emailed you the entry code for the electronic garage door opener so you can get in, but do not try to change the locks again. Where are you staying? She asked, her tone softening slightly. I am safe, I answered, not wanting to drag Taylor into this mess. That is all you need to know right now. After ending the call with my mother, I got dressed and prepared to meet with Taylor's cousin. Just as I was gathering my documents, my phone rang again. This time it was Allison. I hesitated longer before answering this call. My relationship with my sister was complicated. I did not hate her, but years of witnessing her manipulate our parents and receive preferential treatment had created a deep rift between us. Still, if we were going to resolve this situation, we would need to communicate eventually. Hello, Allison, I answered. Iris. She sounded relieved. Thank God. Are you okay? Where are you? I am fine, I replied. Staying with a friend until we sort this out. I am so sorry, she said, catching me off guard. Allison rarely apologized for anything. I should have called you myself about moving back home. I just assumed Mom had discussed it with you properly. She did not, I said simply. She told me at dinner that I needed to be out by the time your flight landed. She called me a parasite. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. She did not tell me that part. Iris, I never would have agreed to this if I had known she was throwing you out with no notice. I wanted to believe her, but experience had taught me to be cautious about Allison's apparent moments of conscience. They often evaporated as soon as getting what she wanted was at stake. What did you think was going to happen to me? I asked. You knew I was living there. Where did you think I would go when you took my room? I thought you had been making arrangements, she admitted. Mum told me weeks ago that you were planning to move out soon anyway, that you had nearly saved enough for your own place. Another lie from our mother. That was never the plan, I told her. I have been saving, but the housing market is brutal right now. I need at least another 4 months to have enough for deposits and fees. I had no idea, Alison said, sounding genuinely distressed. James cut me off financially when I left. I have nowhere else to go. As angry as I was, I could not help feeling a pang of sympathy. Leaving an emotionally abusive relationship with 2 young children and no financial resources must have been terrifying. We will figure something out, I said, surprised to find I meant it. But I will not be bulldozed or manipulated anymore. I am meeting with a lawyer today to discuss the house situation. A lawyer, is that necessary? Alison asked. Yes, I said firmly. But do not worry, I am not trying to make you and the kids homeless. I just need to protect myself. After ending the call with Alison Taylor, and I headed to her cousin's office. Marissa turned out to be a straightforward, no-nonsense attorney who quickly grasped the situation. You are in a strong position legally, she confirmed after reviewing my documents. As a 1/3 owner, you have equal right to occupy the property. Your mother cannot evict you without your consent. What about selling the house? I asked. Could I force a sale if we cannot come to an agreement? Yes, Marissa nodded. It is called a partition action. Any co-owner can petition the court to divide the property, or if division is not practical, to force a sale and split the proceeds. But that is generally a last resort. It is expensive, time-consuming, and tends to permanently damage family relationships. I would prefer to avoid that, I admitted. Let me reach out to your mother and sister and arrange a meeting, Marissa suggested. Sometimes having a neutral third party present helps keep emotions in check and focuses everyone on finding a practical solution. I agreed, and Marissa promised to contact my mother that afternoon. As we left her office, I felt a curious sense of calm. For the first time in this conflict, I had an advocate, someone firmly in my corner. I imagined this must be how Alison had felt her entire life, with our mother always ready to defend and support her. It was a novel and empowering sensation. That evening, my mother appeared at Taylor's apartment. I had not given her the address, so she must have gone to considerable effort to track me down, probably by calling my co-workers or mutual acquaintances. Taylor answered the door and immediately positioned herself as a barrier. Sandra, she said coolly, what can we do for you? I need to speak to my daughter, my mother replied, trying to look past Taylor into the apartment. I do not think that is a good idea right now, Taylor said firmly. Please, Taylor. My mother's voice cracked. I just need 5 minutes. I appeared behind Taylor. It is okay, I told my friend. I can handle this. Taylor gave my mother a warning look before stepping aside. I will be right in the kitchen if you need me, she told me pointedly. My mother stood awkwardly in the small living room, looking out of place and uncomfortable. Gone was the confident, dismissive woman who had ordered me out of my home. In her place stood someone who seemed smaller, somehow uncertain. Your lawyer called me, she said without preamble. Yes, I nodded. Marissa is helping me navigate the situation. She said we are meeting next week to discuss the house, Mum continued. Is that really necessary? Cannot we just talk mother to daughter? We tried that, I reminded her. It ended with you calling me a parasite and trying to throw me out of a house I partly own. She flinched. I should not have said that. I was stressed about Alison's situation and not thinking clearly. This is not just about what you said, I explained. It is about a lifetime of being treated as less important, less valuable than Alison. It is about you making unilateral decisions about a house that belongs to all 3 of us. It is about respect, Mom. She sat down heavily on Taylor's couch. I never meant to make you feel that way. Intended or not, that was the result, I said. And now we need to figure out a way forward that respects everyone's rights and needs. What do you want? She asked directly. I want acknowledgement that the house is 1/3 mine. I want a fair say in what happens with it. And I want you to really see me, Mom, not as an afterthought or an inconvenience, but as your daughter who deserves the same consideration you have always given Alison. She was quiet for a long moment. I did not realize how much I had hurt you, she finally said. Your father used to tell me I favored Alison too much, but I always dismissed him. I thought he was just being overprotective of you. He saw what was happening, I confirmed. He tried to balance things. What do we do now? She asked, looking suddenly tired and old. We meet with the lawyer next week and work out a fair arrangement for the house, I said. And maybe if you are willing, we start working on our relationship too. Real change, Mom, not just placating me until the next time Alison needs something. She nodded slowly. I can do that, or at least I can try. It was not a perfect resolution, but it was a start. As she left, I felt a weight lifting. Whatever happened next, I had stood up for myself, and for the first time in my life, my mother was actually listening. 1 week later, I sat at a polished conference table in Maurice's office, directly across from my mother and sister. The atmosphere was tense, but civil, as Marisa laid out the legal realities of our situation. To summarize, Marisa said, referencing the documents spread before her, the house is owned equally by the three of you, with each having a 1/3 interest. Under normal circumstances, all owners have equal right to occupy and use the property. However, given the current conflict, we need to establish a formal arrangement that respects everyone's rights while addressing the practical realities of your situation. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Though she had agreed to this meeting, it was clear she still struggled with the idea that she did not have sole authority over the house she had lived in for 30 years. "What are our options?" Alison asked. She had been unusually quiet since I arrived, her typical assertiveness subdued. "There are several," Marisa explained. "One of you could buy out the other's interests. You could sell the property and divide the proceeds. Or you could create a formal co-ownership agreement that establishes rules for shared use." "I cannot afford to buy anyone out," Alison said quickly. "James is fighting the divorce and has frozen all our joint assets." "I do not want to sell," my mother interjected. "That has been our family home for decades." "What about you, Iris?" Marisa turned to me. "What outcome are you hoping for?" I had given this question considerable thought over the past week. While part of me wanted to push for selling the house out of spite, I recognized that would hurt my mother deeply and disrupt my niece and nephew's lives further. "I want a fair resolution," I said carefully. "One that acknowledges my ownership stake while addressing everyone's needs." "Before we continue," Alison interrupted, surprising everyone, "I need to say something." She turned to face me directly, an unusual vulnerability in her expression. "I am sorry, Iris," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I have been thinking about this situation all week, and I realized I have been taking you for granted our entire lives. When Mum told me you needed to move out to make room for us, I did not even question it. I just assumed you would make it work because that is what you have always done. I never stopped to consider how unfair that was." Her unexpected apology caught me off guard. Alison rarely admitted fault or showed this level of self-awareness. "I appreciate that," I said cautiously. "There is more," Alison continued. "James never wanted me to work. He liked having me dependent on him. But watching you these past few days, seeing how you stood up for yourself and handled this situation with such strength, it made me realize how much I have given up. I want to be more like you, independent, self-sufficient." My mother was staring at Alison as if she had never seen her before. This was not the daughter she was accustomed to, the one who relied on emotional appeals and dramatics to get her way. "What are you saying exactly?" my mother asked. "I am saying I need to start taking responsibility for myself and my children," Alison replied. "And that starts with being honest about this situation. Mum, you have always favoured me over Iris. We all know it. And I took advantage of that because it was easy and comfortable. But it was wrong, and it has hurt my relationship with my sister." The conference room fell silent as my mother absorbed this unexpected call out from her favoured daughter. I watched various emotions cross her face: denial, defensiveness, and finally a reluctant recognition. "Is that how you both see me?" she asked quietly. "As unfair?" "Yes," I said simply. Alison nodded in agreement. My mother's shoulders slumped slightly. "I never intended that. I always thought Iris was the strong one, who did not need as much support. She always seemed so capable, while you, Alison, seemed more vulnerable. That is not how it works, Mum," I said gently. "Everyone needs support, even the seemingly strong ones. Maybe especially them, because they are often carrying more than their share." "I see that now," she admitted. "Too late, perhaps." "It is not too late to change," Marisa interjected, bringing us back to the matter at hand. "And perhaps this house situation provides an opportunity to reset your family dynamics as well as your living arrangements." She was right. This conflict, painful as it had been, had forced issues into the open that had festered beneath the surface for decades. Now that they were acknowledged, perhaps genuine healing could begin. "What do you propose?" my mother asked. I took a deep breath and shared the plan I had been considering. "I think we should sell the house," I said, raising my hand to stop my mother's immediate protest. "Hear me out, please. The house is too large for just you, Mom. The maintenance alone is becoming a burden. If we sell it, each of us would receive enough to make a fresh start. Mom, you could buy a smaller, more manageable place. Alison could use her share to secure housing for herself and the kids and have a financial cushion while she rebuilds her life. And I could finally afford a down payment on a place of my own. Alison nodded thoughtfully. That actually makes a lot of sense. My mother looked less convinced. But the memories, Waisa, she protested. Your father and I raised you girls there. The memories come with us, Mum, I said gently. They are not in the walls or the floors. And right now that house is also filled with memories of division and favoritism. Maybe we all need a fresh start. There was a long silence as my mother considered this perspective. What about in the meantime, she finally asked, while the house is being sold? Where does everyone live? Why, I have been thinking about that too, I replied. I will stay with Taylor until I find a rental. Alison and the kids can stay in the house with you, Mom, but with some changes. What kind of changes? Alison asked. First, a formal written agreement about shared expenses. If you are living there, you need to contribute, even if it is just helping with chores until you find work. Second, respect for the fact that I still own part of that house, which means no more unilateral decisions about who stays and who goes. And third, regular family meetings, where we actually listen to each other and make decisions together. Both my mother and sister nodded in agreement. That sounds very reasonable, Marissa commented, making notes. I can draft the necessary documents for both the temporary arrangement and the eventual sale. As the meeting concluded and we prepared to leave, my mother reached out and took my hand, something she had rarely done since I was a small child. I am sorry, Iris, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Truly sorry for how I have treated you. I hope it is not too late for us. It is not too late, I assured her, squeezing her hand. But things will be different from now on. They already are, she acknowledged. As we walked out together, Alison fell into step beside me. I meant what I said in there, she told me quietly. You inspire me, Iris. I want to be more like you. Be yourself, I advised her. Just a version that stands on her own 2 feet. She smiled a genuine smile, without the manipulation that often lurked behind her expressions. I am working on it. The kids ask about you every day, by the way. They miss their Aunt Iris. I miss them too, I admitted. Once things settle down, I would love to spend more time with them. I would like that, she nodded. They need strong female role models in their lives. I am trying to be one, but I could use some help. We will figure it out, I promised. Together this time. 6 months later, I stood in the living room of my new condominium, surrounded by freshly painted walls and the furniture I had selected to fill this space that was truly mine. The proceeds from the sale of the family home had provided exactly the financial boost I had needed to secure this place, a modern 1-bedroom with large windows perfect for my photography hobby and a spare room I was setting up as a home office. My mother had purchased a comfortable townhouse in a community for active seniors where she had already joined a book club and a gardening group. The smaller space was easier for her to maintain, and being around people her own age had brought a new energy to her life. She seemed happier, more engaged with the world beyond her immediate family. Alison and the kids were renting a small house not far from me. She had found work as an administrative assistant at a local company, her first job in over a decade. It was not glamorous, but it provided stability and a sense of accomplishment that had been missing in her marriage. The divorce was proceeding, and while James continued to be difficult about financial matters, Alison was standing firm with the help of a good lawyer. Our relationships had changed dramatically since that confrontation 6 months ago. My mother and I spoke regularly on the phone, and we met for lunch every Sunday. Our conversations were different now, more balanced. She asked about my work, my friends, my dreams, and actually listened to my answers. I found myself sharing things with her I would never have revealed before, trusting that she would not dismiss or minimize my experiences. Alison and I were building a relationship as adults for the first time. We still had moments of tension, old patterns die hard, but we were learning to communicate honestly, rather than falling back on childhood dynamics. I had become a regular presence in my niece and nephew's lives, taking them for weekend outings and helping with homework. Emma had shown an interest in photography, and I was teaching her the basics, treasuring the opportunity to share my passion with the next generation. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reflections. It was Taylor carrying a bottle of champagne. "Happy housewarming," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug. "I cannot believe you are finally all moved in." "Could not have done it without you," I told her sincerely. "I would probably still be sleeping on your couch if you had not pushed me to follow through with everything. Please, she waved dismissively. You are the one who changed the locks and called a lawyer. I just provided moral support and occasional wine, both essential components of revolution. I laughed. As we opened the champagne and toasted to new beginnings, my phone chimed with a text message. It was from my mother. Just checking that we are still on for lunch tomorrow. Allison and the kids will join us. Emma has big news she wants to share with her favorite aunt. I smiled as I confirmed the plans. 6 months ago, I could not have imagined this scenario, my mother, sister, niece and nephew all looking forward to spending time with me, valuing my presence in their lives. The doorbell rang again, and I opened it to find a delivery person with a large package. Delivery for Iris Chambers, he announced. I signed for the package and brought it inside, curious about its contents, since I had not ordered anything recently. The return address was my mother's. Inside was a beautiful framed photograph of my father and me, taken on a fishing trip when I was about 12. I remembered that day vividly, how he had taught me to cast a line, his patience as I tangled everything repeatedly, his quiet pride when I finally caught a small bass. I had never seen this particular photo before. Attached was a note in my mother's handwriting. Iris, I found this while unpacking. Your father always kept it on his desk at work. He told me once it was his favorite photo because it captured your determination and joy all at once. I thought it belonged with you now. With love, Mom. I traced my father's smile in the photograph, feeling his presence with me in this new chapter of my life. He had always believed in my strength, my resilience. In standing up for myself, I had finally lived up to that belief. Good news, Taylor asked, noticing the tears in my eyes. The best kind, I replied. A reminder that I come from somewhere, that I was loved even when I did not always feel it, and that the past does not determine the future. As I hung the photograph in a place of honor on my living room wall, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. When my mother had called me a parasite and told me to leave, it had felt like the ultimate rejection, but that painful moment had become the catalyst for transformation, not just for me, but for our entire family. I had discovered my own voice, my own power. My mother had confronted her patterns of favoritism and begun the hard work of changing them. My sister had found strength she never knew she possessed. Even my niece and nephew were thriving in this new family dynamic, with healthier role models and more authentic relationships. The path had not been easy. There had been tears, heated words, moments of doubt. But we had persevered, and in doing so created something better than what we had lost. Sometimes being pushed out is actually being set free. Free to create boundaries, to demand respect, to build a life on your own terms. And sometimes the very people who push you away are the ones who need the lesson most, who grow the most from your refusal to accept less than you deserve. I know my father would be proud of all of us, finding our way through difficult truths towards something more honest and sustaining. Proud of me for standing firm of Allison, for standing up of our mother, for finally seeing her daughters clearly. Have you ever had to stand up to family who took you for granted? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below, and do not forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to say enough and change the pattern. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you courage if you are facing similar challenges in your own